What's going on YouTube? Welcome to episode 99 of the U.S.S. Enterprise D tutorial. I'm Zerelite and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. If you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me and supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And before we get into today's episode, I've got my next ship build poll going on Discord right now. I'll have a description or a link in the description below. Be sure to join. And if you want to contribute in what the next ship build is going to be sure to join the Discord and go and click on the next build poll channel to the right once you join in. And this way you'll be able to cast your vote on what the next ship build is going to be. And the list is going to be as follows: the U.S.S. Stargazer, Jem'Hadar Warship, Deep Space Nine and Defiant, Enterprise NX-01, U.S.S. Excelsior, U.S.S. Kelvin, Klingon Warbird, Romulan Valador type Warbird, U.S.S. Titan, and of course Voyager. So be sure to join, and this poll is going to be going until we reach the end of the Enterprise D tutorial. This way everybody has a chance to come in and vote. So definitely be sure to join that. I populated that list based off of the most top requested builds that I've gotten on the YouTube channel. So anyway, getting into what we got going on for today's episode, we're going to be working on the impulse engines of the Enterprise D. It's actually kind of crazy to see my ship in this state to go back and look at this because where I'm at right now, like I've pretty much gotten like 75 to 80% of the exterior detailing done. And that's something else you can join the Discord on, because if you go under my current projects tabs, I've got a bunch of screenshots on there showing you the current progress I've been making on the Enterprise D, for those of you that might be interested in that. But anyway, let's go ahead and just jump right into it today. Not a super long episode, but still about 18 minutes. And really, we're just going to be taking our time with this. So we're going to be counting out here. We're going to be going, we're going to be doing an outline block in the light gray concrete. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to space out and make sure that the left side matches the right side. Now you can do this without having these spacer blocks on here, but for the purpose of this tutorial, I actually believe that these end up staying on here. I could be wrong on that, but definitely want to make sure to add those. So after the second row, we're going to be cutting up by 4 blocks, it looks like. All right, so now that we've done that on the left side, we're going to repeat that same process on the right side. Going off the cut line, we're going to be doing 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're going to be going over. We're going to go in 1 row, 2, 3, and we're going to be getting rid of all that access here. We're basically making a cut outline to get an idea of how big our impulse engines need to be. Now, something else that you can do too, and you can't see it on my screen, sometimes I'll do this because I actually have a pretty fancy rig going up with my desk right now. I've got actually 4 monitors going on. So a lot of the times when I don't have a picture up while I'm doing the tutorial, 9 times out of 10 I'll have that on one of my other screens. And what I'm actually doing right now is I'm looking at pictures of the Enterprise D, specifically at the impulse engines, to try to get the most accurate build out of it that I possibly can. So that's definitely something that you should be doing. I mean, and of course you can definitely build what I'm building right here, but this is always good to have because I'm trying to show everybody the steps that I take when I'm building these ships. And when you have a reference to go off of, and you're not just going off of memory, you'll surprise yourself. It's going to become a lot easier to build these ships, is kind of what I'm getting at here. And this is something that I do for every single build that I'm working on. I always go back, I check my reference material either before or during while I'm working on the build, and even after, I'll go back and check my work and see if there's some changes I want to make to it. Which is something that we've done during the course of this tutorial. There's certain areas that we're still continuously working on the Enterprise D, and there's other areas that we're going back to tweak. Because this is going to be one of those things that's going to happen to you when you're building a ship for the first time. Sometimes things may not come out exactly the way that you want it to. So it's going to be kind of that continuous progression before you get to a point where you're 100% set on where you want it to be. That's kind of where I'm getting at here. So once we've made our cut lines here, I think we're actually going to end up going one more row to the left and right to make them just a little bit bigger. I could be wrong on that. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that's what we're going to end up doing, is I think the cutouts that I make here end up being just a little bit shorter than what they need to be. You know, this just goes into one of my rules here, that if you do one thing on one side, you do it on the other side. And in this case, the Enterprise D has those two impulse engines on the left and right side. So it's kind of important that we do these things side by side and build them at the same time, just so this stays fresh in our minds, and it's a little bit easier to build it out, because in my experience building these ships, you're a lot less likely to make a mistake if the left and right side matches and you're doing them at the same time, as opposed to completing one side and then going over to the other side and then completing the other one. So that looks pretty good. But yeah, you can see what I mean here. I mean, that cutout, it kind of looks a little bit narrow. So we might end up needing to go in at least one more row. Now, another thing to consider too is that you don't want to make them too big. So that's why we're kind of just gingerly going, shaving off the minimum amount before we take off a little bit more, because it's easier to take away at this point than to go back and rebuild all this stuff that we're doing right now. So that's kind of why I'm going. I'm taking my time. I'm only doing a little bit at a time to gauge it, as opposed to just going gung-ho and making it the size that I think it should be right away. Because sometimes, you know, there's going to be that trial and error period again, where you might have to make it a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. So I'm trying to avoid that. So, you know, again, it's easier just to shave away a little bit at a time. And that's exactly what we're doing here. Because the other thing too, now, all this stuff that we're doing here, I'm not going to be going back and changing this, but it's also very important that if you're going to be doing something like this and experimenting, make an extra couple of copies of your save here. So this way, if you decide that, let's say, for example, that the cutouts that we made here, we don't like them, rather than trying to figure out the headache of going back and rebuilding them, which really wouldn't be too difficult if you really think about it, because you're just going with a cut line. But if you want to save yourself a good 15 to 20 minutes trying to rebuild all that, after experimenting, if it doesn't come out the way that you want it to, just revert back to your previous save and delete the most recent one that you made those errors on. This is something else I do all the time. Anytime I want to experiment and try something out off camera before I implement it in the tutorial. But what we have going on right now, I think that actually looks pretty good. Because the impulse engines, they're not super big, but they're not small either. But I think the size that we got going on here, I think that's going to work out pretty good. So what we're going to do, we're going to start from the far left and the far right side and just kind of work our way in. Now, as you can see, I'm going with a cut line. I tried to bring it over, but the problem that I just ran into is that I didn't go far out enough. So I might even need to go one more. Because if you look at the screenshots of the Enterprise D, these impulse engines, they do kind of sit within these cuts. They're not really bulging and sticking out all that much. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back and get rid of that access. Make sure we have a nice clean line going on there. We have a nice outline template for what we're going to be working with here. before we get too much into it, let's go over to the left side now and repeat that same process. I'm actually getting really excited about this today because, you know, there's so much of this tutorial that we really haven't gotten into. We're really just still beginning to scratch the surface of working on the Enterprise D because, I mean, again, this thing has just turned out to be a monster of a build. Coming up here in a couple of days, it'll be a year now that I started working on this build. So once the tutorial is done, I'll be able to say that this is at least a year-long build, if not longer, because I'm gonna have enough content here that I can keep going for a while, and I still have a lot of work to do on the interior because I really want to try to get this thing to be as far complete as I possibly can and really flesh this thing out. And I'm not in a rush to make that happen. I'm taking my time, doing it the right way, just taking it one building session at a time, which is what everybody should do. You know, it's not about, you know, speed. It's about accuracy, and especially with a ship this size, when you start to make, you can make a couple of little mistakes, but you start to make a lot of big mistakes, it can be costly for you, because what I mean by that is it can take a considerable amount of time to fix those mistakes, as opposed to working on a ship build scale like the Enterprise A, or any of the Constitution class variants that I did, or like the Cerritos, the Kelvin. Those that ship size, it's a lot easier to fix a mistake, but this size ship, I mean, it's going to cost you a little bit. It's going to cost you some time to fix it. So that's one of the main reasons why I take my time with this thing, just to avoid having to backpedal a lot and fix some of those mistakes or changes that I want to make to it. I think actually what I'm going to end up doing, I'm pretty sure this episode is actually going to be dropping on Saturday, because I want to try to speed up this tutorial series just a little bit. I don't have enough time to drop a video 5 times a week, but what I am going to do is I'm going to be doing, I think, 4 videos a week: Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. I'm going to try to keep that consistent. Now, I don't want to promise every single week I'm going to have a video drop on Saturday, but right now the plan is to do Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Every once in a while, here and there, if I get really, you know, held up with work and whatnot, you may not see a video drop every single week on Saturday, but really my plan is at this point to do that every single week, because I want to try to start churning out a little bit more of these episodes and start going through this just a little bit faster than where we're currently at. I feel like we're making good progress, but there's still a lot to be done on this tutorial series, and I want to try to really get this thing going as much as I can. Something else I'm going to be doing too is I'm probably going to be doing some smaller builds between the time that the Enterprise D is done and then my next build. I haven't quite decided on what those are going to be yet. Right now I'm really just trying to focus on the Enterprise D. If you're on my Discord, as you can probably see, I've been posting a lot of screenshots to show people my current progress and how far I've been getting along. And I'm doing this intentionally because I really want to just, I'm trying to really start rocking and rolling here and just getting as much as I possibly can get done on this thing. So this way, I can throw a capital D done on this thing and move on to the next build, or at least get a significant amount of work done, so where I can take a short break from the Enterprise D and maybe work on a smaller build. So we'll see what happens with that. Definitely keep an eye on the Discord as well as the YouTube channel, because I'll be posting on Discord before I post any updates on my YouTube channel. So if you're wanting to get the latest news on the YouTube channel, definitely a good idea to join the Discord. You know, it's something that it's slowly but surely growing, and this is something that's not going anywhere. And really, as the channel grows, I suspect the Discord channel is going to grow as well. It's just really going to be an ever-evolving thing. So I'm actually really excited about that, to have the Discord, because now I have that opportunity to really be able to communicate with the community a lot better than what I had before with the YouTube channel. Anyway, talking a little bit about what we got going on here, you can see that we pretty much completed the outline of our impulse engines here. And now we're going to be throwing in what the lighting effect was going to be. Now, these blocks right here were actually perfect, but we're going to have a problem with them because I think I actually probably had to have a water source underneath them, because like that looks awesome, but after a few minutes they're going to start turning into dirt. So then we're going to have to go with a red. We're actually going to end up using, it won't be in today's episode, this is one of the things I actually did recently. We'll be coming back and using one of the grid pixel pack blocks that's more of like a crimson red, and it looks a little bit closer to like what the Impulse engine should be. Yeah, you can already see it's starting to change. And I could have maybe gotten around it by doing half slabs underneath here and then doing a water source to try to correct that, but I just decided that the easier thing to do would be just to swap out the block. That's looking pretty solid so far. We got a nice lip on the top and bottom, so just to give it a little bit more of a three-dimensional look. Yeah, now we're swapping that out just for the red. I really like those blocks. I wish that they didn't switch like that, because there's other, not only with the Impulse engines, there's some other ideas I was thinking about using these blocks for, and it just, didn't work out. It is what it is. But the red there doesn't look bad, but again, we'll be coming back to that and swapping that out, because when we come back and start detailing the ship, there's going to be a lot more of the red pinstripe, and I didn't want the red pinstripe to match the Impulse engine, so that'll be something that we'll be swapping out later on. And if you want an idea of what I'm talking about, the thumbnail for today's episode matches what the current ship, the state of it looks like. If you want to get a couple more, screenshots of what the current build looks like right now, be sure to join the Discord and look under my current projects, and I've got a bunch of pictures up in there. Right now we're just kind of adding another row here to match that gray lip that we have here on the sides, because like I was telling you guys before, we're keeping that line there. I'm looking at this corner right here because this underside, I'm not really feeling it, so I might end up bringing it in by one. But even where I just did that, I'm not digging that either. I think the only real solution here is to go with the half slabs. The other thing that's making the neck look weird on the sides here is I actually haven't done the outline for the edging. That'll be something that we're going to be doing in an upcoming episode. We're basically going to be adding a line going along the sides of the neck going upward, and it'll help to where the neck of the ship won't look so bad. It'll look a little bit cleaner. Not that the neck looks bad, but that's just, I don't know. Something about where it's at right now doesn't really sit well with me, so that's why I decided I wanted to add that line just to give it a little bit something more, and it actually works out pretty well. And again, I've got screenshots on the Discord channel where you can see a little bit more of what I'm talking about. Definitely looks a heck of a lot better. Yeah, it's so crazy to see this ship in its current state because where it's at right now on the outside, it looks completely different. I mean, I've actually gotten a lot of work done on this ship on the outside recently. I've completely I wouldn't say completely redesigned the front engines, but I did rebuild them again and made them just a little bit longer because they still feel a little bit stubby. I ended up rebuilding just the front side with the half slabs to give it a little bit more of a clean cut line. And then one of the other things I was talking about in the past was that the pylons that hold the nacelles, they feel a little bit short, that they're not long enough. And especially when I make the engines just a little bit longer, I end up actually making the pylons a little bit longer as well. Um, but this will be stuff that's going to be coming up in the future. But anyway, I think that's going to wrap us up today. Those Impulse engines, they look fantastic. It's pretty much spot on with the Enterprise D. And I think really the question you should be asking yourself, whether it's this build or any other build, if you're trying to build something from uh, a reference material, is does it look like does it look like the reference material? And if it doesn't, you know, don't beat yourself up. Just go back again and keep working on it until it comes out the way that you want, or approach it in a different way and just before you build it, just stop and let it marinate for a while. Think about what you want to do. If you're good at drawing, or even you can draw a little bit, draw this stuff out. This is stuff that I do too. I'm a very visual person. These are things that can help you in being a better builder. But anyway, I think that's going to wrap us up today. I've been rambling on just a little bit more, but I'm pumped up. I'm ready to get through this tutorial, and I'm excited to show you guys some of the stuff that's going to be coming up. But yeah, that's going to wrap us up today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. And if you did enjoy this content, please help me out. Hit that like and subscribe button, helping me in supporting the channel. And of course, new subscribers, don't forget to hit notifications on so you get notified when those new videos drop. And speaking of new videos, I'll have my videos dropping Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays at 7 p.m. Of course, I'll have a link in the description below for the Discord channel. And last thing, as we make our way to 1,000 subscribers, we've got the Enterprise A retro refit tutorial coming. So definitely keep an eye out for that. But all right, I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. And I'll catch you on the next episode. And of course, what did you make in Minecraft today? Let me know in the comments section.